on behalf of the House Democratic Caucus, we are both encouraged and slightly concerned with the overall presentation that Governor Fallin made today. We're encouraged by the fact that she's willing to take a hard look at the state's budget and try to find ways to protect the most vulnerable citizens in our society. A position of our caucus is that the elderly, the young folks in our school system, the mentally challenged, those folks need to be protected, and the only protection they have is through our state budget and some of those core services that we offer. And we want to ensure that as the knife comes out to cut the state budget, some $600 million, we don't make those vulnerable citizens in our society the victim of those budget cuts. So we're encouraged when she says that we want to look at all tax credits to make sure that they're effective, and those that aren't effective, we want to eliminate so that we can put that money back in the budget to take care of the people who need it the most. We are encouraged with her ideas that she wants to try to find ways to streamline state government. If it makes sense, if it doesn't cost hundreds of Oklahomans their jobs, and it will actually be a cost savings to the state, then it's something that the House Democrats are willing to look into. So in that sense, when it comes to some of the budget numbers, we're excited. On the downside of it, what we got, one other part of the message that we got out of the governor's address today was it seemed as if a great number of people in our state are now in danger of losing their rights as citizens. She's talked about school district consolidation, which would be horrible for our school systems, especially in rural Oklahoma. She talked about rolling back rights for people at the courthouse, putting hard caps on damages, which means that corporations and businesses and doctors who harm people that have been adjudged guilty of harming someone will now get off easier under this administration. She talked about taking injured workers and rolling back their rights, and not only would her plan affect injured workers' rights, but would also affect compensation rates to doctors, and so doctors in Oklahoma should be concerned about that. She talked about eliminating due process for our public teachers, the rights that they fought for a generation or more to have to ensure that their jobs are protected in the schoolhouse. Those teachers who are doing a good job are protected. She basically stated, and was overwhelmingly welcomed by the majority caucus today, she stated that if you give her a bill that would eliminate teacher due process, she'd sign it. And that is a concern. So if you're a teacher today, if you're a school child today, if you're someone who's ever been injured by anyone in the state, or if you're someone who may be injured by someone in the state, you need to be careful, because under this administration, as we see it, by the plans laid out by this governor, your rights are very likely to be reduced.
The governor asked legislative leaders, as well as the general public, to send in their own ideas for reform and for streamlining government. Do you have any suggestions?
Well, we've got our caucus is in the process of putting together our agenda that would put forward ideas to help streamline state government and make government more efficient and better for the tax-paying citizens in Oklahoma. We have yet to roll out our agenda, and that will come out when our agenda is produced.
Earlier today, I talked to another representative, and they heard about House rules and I guess openness and transparency. Are you really concerned about not getting, I guess, the whole rules and seeing the rules as quickly as it has, or anything like that?
Certainly. Our caucus is really concerned about what is going to take place here in just a few minutes on the House floor. You get into the weeds sometimes, into the minutia of legislative procedure, but I guess the nuts and bolts of it is this. We have a set of rules that we work under, and we will work under them for the next 2 years. The majority of the members of my caucus have not even seen those rules or had a chance to review them until just a few hours ago, and now they're going to be asked to vote on them. Those rules set the procedure as to how we can debate, how we can vote on bills, what kind of bills can be heard, how committees operate. They completely control the way the legislative process is run, ergo they control the way the citizens are represented. And the members of the minority caucus have yet to really have any opportunity to review those rules. And it's interesting because, as you'll hear today, I'm certain the Speaker will shine a light or highlight what he believes will be an openness in the rules, creating 24-hour rules to allow legislation to be read before it's voted on. All of those are fine and well. However, they're not being applied in today's procedure as they pertain to the rules themselves. And so we've got some serious concerns about that.
Representative Inman, this is Terra Nova for the Democratic Party. For the first time in state history, Republicans control all the elected branches. How will Democrats adjust and respond?
Our responsibility as a minority party is to be the conscience of the body. The Republicans did it when they were in the minority, and we plan to do it as we spend our term in the minority. Our responsibility to the people of Oklahoma is to stand up when the majority party is exceeding their bounds and to call them on it. I think that's evident in the most recent decision by the Senate just today. The session just began, and the Senate has decided to side with a power grab by the State Department of Education. And the state superintendent decided to side with, in her effort to grab power from the state school board. And in order to do it as quickly as possible, they decided to have the bill heard in committee today. That is unprecedented, breakneck speed, all to gain power. And what I mean by that on that particular issue is that what Board Member Rozelle said is deplorable and should never have been said. But while that's an issue, the other issue involved in this case involves a superintendent trying to put on her friends and cronies on a board, in the job of the State Department of Education, for which they're not qualified. There have been rules on the books for nearly 20 years that say what those individuals have to have in terms of qualifications before they can be hired. She got power, immediately determined she wanted to do what she wanted to do, meaning put her campaign staff on the State Department of Education's payroll, realized she couldn't do it, and so unlike what those members of the majority party said when they ran for office, instead of supporting the rule of law and the Constitution and abiding underneath those guidelines, they've decided since she doesn't like the rules, they're simply going to change the rules. They're simply going to grab power from the state school board and the governor, mind you, and that's what they did today. And so we sort of view that as it's definitely a usurpation of the governor's power and authority as well as the power of the people who elected the governor. And we believe there's going to be more examples of that going forward. And our job is to call them on it in the minority. Hang on a second.
Mentioned the governor talking about school consolidation. You said it's bad for rural Oklahoma. I have a lot of rural listeners. Can you explain that a little more about why it's bad?
Certainly. We've got small communities throughout rural Oklahoma that their identities are tied to their local schools and their local school districts. And the autonomy that many of those school districts have to maintain the education the education levels that they believe are important for their school district, what kind of programs they offer, what kind of teachers they hire, that's important to the identity of those communities as well as to those students and parents. If you start to consolidate school districts the way that the governor wishes to, you're going to put Prague over Chandler. You're going to put the folks in Prague, give them authority to close down schools in Chandler or close down schools elsewhere. You're going to have people in El Reno being able to close down schools in Sentinel or Lone Wolf, those kinds of issues. And we believe that you really do eat away at the heart of rural Oklahoma. The heart of rural Oklahoma really resides in those small communities, in those school districts, and in those towns. And if you start to close those doors, then you begin to really eliminate the reason for existence for a lot of those towns.